the big bad city. This is Jam Hot. This is Jam Hot. Jam nitty gritty, you're listening to the boy from the big bad city. This is Jam Hot. This is Jam Hot.
God, I'm too hot. Hi, good afternoon. How the devil are you? I'm hot. I'm hot, hot, hot. I've got a nice top on, so, it's as cool as I can be. I just thought we'd talk about Laura Bates, because I think yesterday, she was with the Women and Equalities Committee, and oh my God, you can imagine. You can imagine the grilling she got after Baroness Faulkner, can't you? Simpering, pandering, nightmare. Look, she's got some good points. She really does. She talks about how AI impacts women. She talks about deep fake. She talks about the different ways that technology is used now by bad men to do other bad things to women. But weirdly, she thinks that trans women are women and that women have no right, as far as I can see from her writing, that women don't have right to single-sex spaces. And she's been very quiet about this whole issue. And in a Guardian article, so she's not only quiet now, she is one of the proper feminists of something called everyday sexism, which basically is you can talk about manspreading, but don't talk about penises in women's changing rooms. It's that sort of feminism. And she is one of the many feminist architects of the shit that we see now with regards to trans rights. And I knew she would be, I could tell, because she was really focusing on manosphere and men's attitudes to women, as if they've changed. But this other thing of men being women and women not having any boundaries has got nothing to do with it. And I just want to address that particular thing. So she was in, so this is her article, 2014. Oh, no, sorry. This is not her article. This is what I'm talking about. This is her in the House of Commons in the Women and Equality Select Committee, the Manosphere and Online Content. So this is just a very interesting thing where what everyone's okay about doing is they're okay with discussing some things that personally, I made myself nice and big, look, that personally I don't think is as important. It is important, but it's It's the same misogyny, it's just packaged in a different medium. And I think, like, if you look at and it may be more pernicious because I think that, it can really attack women all the time, and then women have got other things to deal with that are consistent. And a lot of the enemies women face, we're being told are good for us. So pornography, for example, we're told it's not really a big deal. Look, it's normal. If your boyfriend watches it, it's normal. It's normal to be choked. It's normal for podcast bros to promote prostitutes, um, basically hookers that go and target just 18-year-old boys. All that's fine. The Andrew Tate thing, um, him being promoted by sort of supposedly reasonable men, all that's fine. But Andrew Tate is, no better or worse, really, than any of the other disgusting men that have gone before, like Peter Stringfellow, for example. Ran a club that was all about men going and watching women get undressed. So um, maybe some of the exploitation is a bit more overt, but this is not just there, this is everywhere. And I think the manosphere, like, let's say that we think it is harmful. And I definitely I know, like, some young people who have tried to replicate Andrew Tate's business, right? But they're idiots. And they would have tried something else that was kind of slippery 20 years ago. So I think he's a terrible person. I think the manosphere is probably quite a bad place for people to sort of fester and share their grievance, and their grievance becomes multiplied, and it becomes bigger, and maybe they get a bit set in stone because that's kind of, you got consistent propaganda. But I actually don't think misogyny is any worse with the men on the manosphere here than maybe, I don't know, men in India, um, and women's rights throughout much of the globe. It kind of feels like moaning about the manosphere is a very luxurious place to be in. What our boys are watching online, and the antidote to what men are watching online is to do other things. Like, if you're worried about your son spending too much time in manosphere kind of spaces, then get him out of his room and go and sign him up for stuff and do things as a family, and be busy. Right? That's the antidote to that. You can't really do anything else. You just have open dialogue. Um, so anyway, that's my answer. But what's really interesting about Laura Bates is that while she's talking about this gaslighting and girls sort of having their boundaries eroded, and she comments in this particular meeting, or it might be another interview, she comments how some young women that she's working with have been sexually assaulted and they don't even know the language for it. Well, Laura, that would be like a man being in a women's changing room taking his clothes off, wouldn't it? That would kind of be sexual assault. And actually, women like you would tell those girls that they were bigots if they were uncomfortable with penises in their spaces. So it's kind of these women, a bit like some of the left-wing feminists, a bit like some of the women in parliament who call themselves feminists. They're the gaslighters. Like the Andrew Tates of this world, he's just a bona fide kind of second-hand car salesman who stares at underage girls. Like, that's kind of the feel I get of that man. He's just a prick. He's a guy that's loudmouthed in the pub who boasts about having a blowjob before breakfast. Like, he's that guy. There's always been that guy. And we can all see that he's like a ridiculous, monstrous person. We can all see that. But when you've got places like Everyday Sexism and these, the chair of the Women Inequalities Committee basically worrying about men and men's access to women-only spaces, I can't take any of them seriously. And it's just another one of those instances where this is an okay thing to talk about. We can all moan about the manosphere, and we cannot really tackle any other issues that are going on behind the scenes. We can't look at the gaslighting of women. We can't look at any of those other things, but we can look at kind of really overt examples of sexist behavior. But when it comes to real harm, of totally eroding the boundaries of women without even them, and then reminding, and then women like this telling those women that those boundaries are bigoted and transphobic. I think that actually is a greater harm than a few pricks, or even if it's many immature, sexist pricks online, pretending to do this sort of this boyfriend method. And let's remember, I don't know what Laura Bates has said about the grooming gangs, but you cannot talk about the boyfriend method without talking about the systematic and systemic rape of teenage girls up and down this country using the boyfriend method from the Pakistani Muslim paedophile rape gangs. And as far as I'm concerned, as far as I'm aware, they didn't need online misogyny and manosphere to actually perpetrate those crimes. So, it's a little kind of, we can focus on that. We can all talk about adolescence. Oh, the adolescence was so brilliant. So brilliant that a prepubescent, tiny little white kid who hadn't even shaved yet, who looked like a child, was supposed to be sort of this terrible, terrible, evil, frightening kid, which was ridiculous. I haven't watched it. So I haven't watched it.
Order, good afternoon and welcome to the Women and Equalities Select Committee. Today we're holding an evidence session on misogyny, the manosphere and online content, and I am really grateful to say that we have Laura Bates here, author, writer, activist. Thank you so much for offering your time and expertise with us today. And I should also say that we are joined by our DSIT colleague from the DSIT Select Committee, Emily Darlington. And just thank you very much. We will be asking questions. If there's anything that you think, actually, I want to go into greater depth, but we don't have time today, or when you leave, you think, I wish I should have said this, please send it in to us in writing, because we want to get full use of your expertise and knowledge today. So thank you. You've recently written a book on AI and misogyny. What are the dangers that AI poses to women?
There are many, I think, and that doesn't mean to say that we need to be anti-tech, but it means that we need to recognise, I think perhaps the biggest danger of all is that at present the perception of risk from AI tends to focus on potential future dystopian threats. Will it take everybody's jobs? Will it wipe out humanity and take over the world? And while those are understandable and important issues, what there isn't much recognition of is the way in which it's already affecting women and girls' lives today in the here and now, both in the form of targeted tools deliberately created for abusive purposes, like, for example, deepfake apps and technology, and in terms of shifting societal norms and perceptions around sexual violence. So, for example, through sex tech, so things like sex robots and AI companions, but also in the inadvertent replication of existing bias, which is rife in AI tools that are being used already across global financial services, for example, where AI is being used to determine credit scores. Already we have a $17 billion global gender credit gap, so this is a significant existing problem that risks being exacerbated. Similar issues around healthcare, for example, tools being created which are more effective in detecting things in male blood samples than they are in women's, is another example of that. We know that 40% of UK firms are already using AI tools in their recruitment processes, but again, AI recruitment tools have been proven explicitly to discriminate against the CVs of women and marginalized.
So anyway, I just wanted to highlight, it's just very interesting. Look, I think she's probably got some really valuable things to say. I just can't take her seriously because she hasn't really talked about any of the trans issue and its and the impact on women. And I just think if you can't start from a fundamental basis of understanding that the misogynist threat posed by pretending that women don't exist and men can be women, if you're not fully on board with that, then how can I trust anything you say? How can we really think Laura Bates is on the side of women when she can't talk about the fear and the erosion of girls' boundaries when there are men and boys in their spaces? It's just really incredulous, weird, and I just saw her today, and it came up on my timeline, and she's sort of touting this book, and I'm sure there is a threat to women with AI. I'm sure there is. I'm sure the things that she's talked about are really important. But if you can't acknowledge that a prong of the misogynistic pincer movement that women are actually in right now also includes men pretending to be women, then I just think you haven't really got a grip on what's happening. And I just thought I would highlight it. It's too hot to do anything longer than sort of 15 minutes. So I'm going to love you and leave you. But yeah, just who gets to talk about women these days? Well, you can talk about abortion. You can talk about abortion. Definitely. You can talk about Gillick. You can talk about children having access to contraception and abortion. You can talk about, is there anything else? You can talk about manspreading. You can definitely talk about mansplaining. You can talk about my body, my choice, no uterus, no opinion. You can say that. What you can't do under any circumstances, you can't talk about grooming gangs. You can't talk about the fundamental threat that Islam poses to all women, Muslim and non-Muslim. And you can't talk about troonery and the threat of men who call themselves women in our spaces and having access to our children. I want to say to you, tomorrow, I think, well, I have to check my times, but I'm doing something tomorrow afternoon, something quite exciting and fun. Or it might be tomorrow morning, I can't remember. And then Sunday, I'm going to be in Bury St Edmunds, where it's going to be piggin boiling. If you want to come and watch me sweat, I'll be wearing polyester. So look, it's a good time for these. Get your old, not Miguel, or Fella Artois, or Heineken, whatever it is. Yeah. So I'm going to go, otherwise I'm going to melt. But my love to you, and Jesus Christ, I hope you have some good fans. I was supposed to have got air conditioning by now, but I didn't bother. If you can keep cool, and not have quiffy hair, if you can keep cool and keep the sun upon your face, then I promise we will win. Oh, by the way, big weekend. If you want to book your tickets for the second weekend of August, Glasgow, massive. There's going to be entertainment, I think, or certainly a disco. There's going to be Tough Talk Live, and there's going to be a Let Women Speak, and that's going to be Glasgow, and it's going to be bloody amazing. Okay, if you can come to Glasgow or Bury St Edmunds or the picnic next weekend at Hyde Park Corner, then I promise we will win. If you can, oh Jesus, try your very best not to melt, then I promise we will win. And do you know how else we're going to win? Because I never lose. And this is to all the people of Iran.